Ken Trahan with Lenny Van Gilder. It's our First NBC Bank Weekend Review, brought to you by First NBC Bank, with 39 locations throughout southeast Louisiana and into the Florida Panhandle. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNola.com. The fallout from LSU's loss to Wisconsin continues, and the criticism is far and wide, understandable, on many levels deserved. One of the fallouts from the game, obviously, the suspension of Josh Boutte for a game after the unfortunate incident at the end of the game. And Lenny, it's just one game, and we do lose sight of the fact that Wisconsin's a pretty good team, especially defensively, so you give them some credit. And yet, as I wrote, the concerns for LSU are exactly where they were when we left off last year. Nothing seemingly has changed since then with this team.
We thought it was going to, but we probably should have known better. Nothing's changed for the most part over the Les Miles era, unless you've had a Zach Mettenberger or the like behind center who has got the ability to throw the ball downfield. He's going to play it very close to the vest and put the ball in the hands of his best players. It was interesting to me. This was a real telling number. Going into that last drive on offense, only 5 players had touched the ball offensively for LSU, and I'm not counting the center snapping the ball to Brandon Harris, but you're talking about 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and the quarterback in more than 3.5 quarters. Now, I know they're not taking a lot of snaps. They only had 50 for the game. But you got to let more people touch the football, it would seem like, in that situation. And, get some people, try to get some people involved. It is the first game of the year. That just didn't happen. And it was like you say, it was, the same old, same old.
Well, they've got 3 good tight ends, and they only threw to the tight end once, and they got the ball into Deshaun Smith and moved the ball. But, then as you look at the rest of it, with all due respect, it was not just Brandon Harris, okay? First and foremost, he's not good enough. He hasn't changed, and that's obvious. That said, he's not the only problem. Their offensive line performed below average in this game. And with all due respect, Malachi Dupree had his hands on at least 4 passes and didn't catch them. Now, they weren't the best throws, and again, that gets back to Harris and accuracy. But by and large, this was a collective effort offensively, taking Leonard Fournette out of the equation.
Right. It's, it makes you wonder what is to come, what could change. And obviously, they're going to be better than a lot of teams they play. Wisconsin is probably one of the 3 to 4 best teams on their schedule this year? Maybe. I mean, clearly Alabama's better. What we saw for a half on Monday night, Ole Miss is better. Florida should be better. Beyond that, I think everything's kind of, you could throw some people up in the air there in terms of what it would actually be. But
I think Texas A&M was impressive.
They were, and certainly they could be at least as good. So there are going to be some challenges going forward on how they respond to that. Look, the season is not over by any means. LSU could still be in the college football playoff if they run the table, but their margin for error is now gone.
Tulane back in action at home against Southern this week off of a good defensive effort against Wake Forest. Just couldn't finish drives, and that's why they lost, even though they probably had the edge in the game. And now home against Southern, you hate to say must win. They're going to win this game. I mean, unless something drastic happens. If they don't win this game, then the red flag goes up.
Well, you would think so, but again, they should win this game. And they've got 3 in a row at home here. Navy after this, UL Lafayette, who just fired their defensive coordinator after a very poor effort against Boise State. 2 weeks after that, Navy's going to obviously be the toughest of those 3. But if you can end this homestand 2-2 going to UMass, got to feel pretty good about where things are. Yeah, I'm sure they probably feel like one got away in terms of the Wake Forest game because you held that team to 7 points and 160 yards. And like you said, knocked on the door several times, really moved the ball between the 30s, but just couldn't push it in when they got down deep. That's game 1 of a system. So I think they will get better. What's the old saying? And taking into account for both Tulane and LSU, you make the biggest improvement from game 1 to game 2.
No question. Where the Saints are concerned, of course, they got down to their 53-man roster, but stay tuned, that could change. You never know moving forward, although as we get closer to game time, it's not going to change. They tried to make a run at Josh Sitton, could not get him. The Bears beat them to the punch. And now, of course, the focus is on the Raiders, although there's been talk about the Breeze contract, and that's been a little bit of a topic of discussion for many, about 4 years and $100 million. I think it's too much. I think he's deserving, but I think that's too much, and I think that's kind of the sentiment of people. So I don't think it's a distraction, but then again, you never know.
Look, you hear the numbers. We heard them all day Monday. All right. They're meaningless. The one number matters in that contract. It's not 4 years. It's not $100 million. It's the guaranteed dollars. Keep this in mind. If you don't make a deal, the only way you're keeping him then is to tag him. He's cost you $43 million against the cap next year, and that's what he would get guaranteed. So that's your starting point in a negotiation in this thing. I think what you look at, I think a 4-year deal is really about the right way to go because you want to spread those dollars out. Maybe the first 2 years are guaranteed. That's what it's in the end of the day going to come down to is the amount of guaranteed dollars in this deal. I think it's in the ballpark of where it needs to be. How much are the guaranteed dollars going to be? Is it going to be in that $40 million end or is it closer to the $60 million end? That remains to be seen. I would have to think, though, the last 2 years are going to not be guaranteed. You're talking about a guy at that point who's 40 and 41.
Before we get to high school sports, a send-off to the New Orleans Zephyrs. No more. That's really strange, isn't it?
Well, it is. And is there a sense of irony that it ended with a rainout? Didn't get the last game in. Of course, it rained all day here Monday in New Orleans, and they didn't. It was a meaningless game. Would have been nice for them to be able to win the finale, finish the year at 500. And instead, they finish a game under. Now, I guess we wait and see what exactly a nickname is. And look, as I've mentioned. It hadn't been brought up. Obviously, it's got to be a new name to the ballpark. You're not going to play at Zephyr Field if you're the New Orleans Trahans or whatever the case may be. So there'll be a new name. I mean, just be calling it the Shrine on Airline like we did for a long time.
Yeah, I'll still wear my shirts. It's all good. We'll see what happens. High school football, and of course, we had a great game last week with John Aaron and Riverside on our first NBC Bank Prep Showcase in Game 1. Game 2 is a trek to Kill, Mississippi, and it's Hancock against De La Salle. Cavaliers off of a win. Hancock, the Hawks are 3-0. That should be another good matchup.
Should be. And good start for both of those teams. De La Salle actually playing their second straight game in the state of Mississippi. They went to Gulfport last week. And look, these are some good tests being able to go over that way and get some teams. The thing to remember is this. Mississippi starts their high school season 2 weeks before Louisiana does. So Hancock's 3-0. They've got really a 2-week head start. And I know that was, we did a game in Mississippi in this very spot on the calendar a year ago with Brother Martin at St. Stanislaus. And I know it was a concern to Brother Martin having to go play a team that had played 3 games versus 1. Well, Brother Martin took care of things pretty handily. Let's see how De La Salle fares this week.
Indeed, and of course, the original Friday night, and we'll talk more about that later in the week, but the best high school coverage anywhere on radio on WGSO locally and, of course, throughout the state with the scoreboard at sportsnola.com, which is second to none. So we're looking forward to another big weekend of high school football, and, of course, check out our sports block on WHNO TV 20 every night at 6 o'clock with, of course, some great shows, including Prep Recruiting Insider and the John Forcade Show coming up on Wednesday and Thursday, respectively. And, of course, remind everybody they can catch that game this weekend on Saturday at noon between De La Salle and Hancock. And each and every week we'll have that for you, too. So it's busy time, and don't miss the Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation Quarterback Club video. Meetings every Tuesday at noon at the Cannery at 3803 Toulouse Street. Come on by and enjoy speakers from all over the world of sports and check out the videos here at sportsnola.com. I think I covered it.
I think you did.
All right.
We're out of time.
And I'm out of breath. He's Lenny. I'm Kenny. And that's our First NBC Bank Weekend Review, brought to you by First NBC Bank. With 39 locations throughout New Orleans and beyond, that's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNola.com. Have a good weekend.
See you later this week.
And a good week and a good weekend and everything else. Hope you had a good Labor Day. Take care, and we'll talk to you later in the week as well. God bless.